Today I'm reviewing the movie Interstellar from 2014. I had a special request to do it. I try to honor special requests from special people. Haha. um, I can definitely see the reasons for this request. Like being a movie 9 years in our past, it's a truly fantastic movie and it's really one of my favorites. Um, my opinion, one of the top 10 scientific sci-fi movies of all time. And as far as I'm concerned, it's a close contest for being in the top five. I'm going to start with a non spoiler overview for anyone who may not have seen it. My first recommendation would be if you have not seen it, go see it. I believe either available on Netflix or Amazon. It's always available at my favorite peer to peer sites. The movie stars Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway, as well as Jessica Chastain, directed by Christopher Nolan. So, one of the best ways to describe this movie is to compare it to the only one I can think of that's somewhat like it. That would be 2001 A Space Odyssey. There are some similar themes between the movies. Essentially, there's an urgent reason to perform a space mission. There are mysterious, powerful beings beyond our comprehension, involved in the periphery, but never quite being revealed. There's a lot of solid science. Yet at the same time, it's told as a story that's very entertaining, has several set pieces to engage you, and takes some very complex ideas and reduces it in a way that the average viewer can pick up and understand. There is a mystery element involved, and you're not necessarily given all the answers to the mysteries. At best, you get the suppositions of the characters. The movie itself is pretty much free of the message and politics. Earth is facing an unsolvable ecological disaster, and they wisely don't turn it into a 20-minute political monologue or sermon. The acting and dialogue in this movie are outstanding. The visuals are very well done. Um, they don't attempt to portray something beyond the means of the production, meaning that CGI is used, but it's well used. Uh, there aren't any CGI monstrosities that jump out at you, going making you wonder why they did it. Everything fits because it has to be that way. The CGI that's used is applicable to what's going on. So, in general, there's space travel. There's travel to some very exotic and interesting planets. Very deep thought went into the physics on this. Uh, and they're delving into physics that are completely beyond our comprehension, yet because it's being visually shown to us, it kind of resonates, or you do kind of understand where they're coming from. The characters are very human and very relatable. They make choices that are occasionally flawed by emotion, but they have to rein in these emotions because they're facing a crisis. So now I'm going to get into talking about the plot in a little bit more detail, so spoilers are coming. If you haven't seen the movie before, stop this review right now and go out and find it. Now, I'm not going to completely dissect the entire plot because I despise spoilers so much. And so, uh, if you haven't seen it in a while, maybe you can go back and a few things that I don't go into detail will re surprise you if you haven't seen it in a while. A big feature of the movie is a black hole named Gargantua. What makes it interesting is it's probably the most realistic depiction of a black hole in a movie, at least up until 2014. If any have done better since then, I'm not aware of them. The physicists who helped develop and inspire the movie ran thousands of hours of simulations to come up with a depiction that best matched actual physics, and is probably considering to be one of the best renderings of a black hole that we'll probably get in a movie for some time to come. Gargantua, the black hole, lies on the other side of a wormhole that opened up near Saturn. Even more fun, it's pointed out briefly that stable wormholes are most likely impossible as a natural phenomenon, suggesting that somehow the wormhole is a construct. And this leads to the idea of bulk beings, some kind of a super advanced being who may have set this up for reasons that we just don't understand. Well, we kind of understand by the end of the movie, but the characters at the time don't. The Earth is in the last stages of a multi species plant blight. When the movie opens, the only surviving food crops are corn and okra. And I recall the radio announcements announcing that this was going to be the last crop of okra. Wisely, there's no real attempt to explain this. And the problem is so far along that it's pretty much understood. There's no solution to it. The main character, Joseph Cooper, played by Matthew McConaughey, is a former NASA test pilot who is now attempting to farm one of the last crops of corn. We discover that in an attempt to save resources, NASA has been shut down some years ago. Now, there's a part of a subplot that deals with a ghost in the house. Uh, Strange, anomalous stuff happens around the house, primarily in the library area, and usually noticed by Joseph's daughter, Murph. The ghost ends up providing a set of latitude and longitude coordinates. They decide to check out where this would lead, and they discover a secret NASA base that has been operating out of public view because the public decided NASA was a waste of what few resources they had left. And they discover NASA has been sending out missions through the wormhole in hopes of finding habitable planets. Cooper shows up in time to pilot the next mission through the wormhole, which is to follow up on the 12 missions that went in there previously. The missions were sent to follow up on leads that the scientists gave NASA via data they sent back. The planets on the other side of the wormhole are circling the black hole Gargantua. One of the problems that NASA is working on is if they do find a habitable planet, how do they evacuate the population of Earth? And this is turned into what essentially is viewed as a gravitational problem. And this is something that's being worked in the background. And at some point in the movie, we discover that the problem is unsolvable with the information they have, and they've known it to be unsolvable for years. There are several very fun plot points, and it worked well. First, they have limited resources, so they can't follow up on all the previous missions. One of the crew members has emotional ties to one of the earlier missions, and this skews her decision making process on where they should be going. The various planets are at different levels in the gravitational tide pool of the black hole, meaning each planet is dealing with a different level of time dilation, where in some cases hours translate into years back Earthside. Worse, they discover that one of the scientists was not telling the truth about what they discover, forcing them on a wild goose chase. Apparently, there's a companion guide or graphic novel telling Dr. Mann's story about how he got here and ends up meeting up uh, the main characters. I've not read it, but I'm very curious to see it. Probably the most fascinating element of the movie for me is the Tesseract. The term Tesseract in physics and geometry is a theoretical model to try to depict 5 dimensions or 5 dimensional space in a way that our 3 dimensional brains can see as physical space. because the other two dimensions are beyond our comprehension to see as physical. Uh, it appears the bulk beings have constructed a five-dimensional space for humans to interact in. So we have our normal XYZ coordinates, and then the tesseract integrates time and the interaction of light with gravity and creates it as additional physical interacting dimensions. These last two conceptual dimensions are depicted in a way that a three-dimensional human being can interact with. And I see this part as extraordinarily clever. They are basically taking something that should be impossible to depict, but it's depicted in such a way where your brain can wrap around it. Time dilation comes into effect once again when Cooper ends up exiting the Tesseract. The Tesseract seems to come apart once its purpose has been served, and the purpose of the Tesseract was to allow Cooper to solve major problems involved with the problem with humanity back on Earth. I think they made really good choices with the whole movie, but especially the ending as well. They had a possibility of picking two equally sappy endings. One would be Murph staying with his now elderly daughter and watching her die, or some dramatic reunion with Amelia, who's stranded on one of the planets back on the other side of the wormhole. The movie ends with Murph insisting Cooper go back for Amelia. Presumably, he'll get to her, but the movie ends with him going back to get her. I think this was a really good choice for an ending. There is also a companion book to this whole movie, which I've not read, but I definitely plan to. So, questions below. Have you seen 2001 and do you see some of the parallels to it? Have anyone read the companion books? Be really interested if you liked those or found those useful. Please smash the like button. If the YouTube algorithm brought you here and you're now the regular subscriber, please check out my other titles. I'm sure you'll find something to interest you. Subscribe. And if you know someone who might find this interesting, please share it with them. Thank you for spending time with me this evening. Hope to see you again in a future video.